Guys, let's start with Nottinghamshire. They haven't won it yet, of course. But boy, oh boy, have they taken a massive stride towards it. It's in their hands. A draw should be enough against Warwickshire. I mean, if you're going to be playing any team next week, maybe Worcestershire. Warwickshire's a team you probably rather play rather than any others because there's so many teams that are still a little bit nervous about relegation. What an accomplishment it looks like it's going to be for Peter Moores. George, you wanted to start? We did talk a little bit about Peter Moores last week, about where this one would land or sit alongside his other county championship triumphs. But, I mean, was anyone really talking about Notts at the start of the year before the first match was played? I can't quite remember. But an amazing achievement. And, let's be honest, it was a terrific game of cricket.
Brilliant game of cricket. There was a lot to enjoy from both sides. I mean, it's not what you've asked, but I want to say Matt Fisher straight away because he was excellent and didn't deserve to be on the losing side. But because the fast bowling that people will remember is Josh Tongue's, and because it was very quick. 92.8, he was timed out at one stage. Hostile, nasty, difficult to play. There's a hell of a lot to like about Josh Tongue, and it feels he's coming to the boil at just the right time. And he complements the attack. You know, without him, not in this game, but they've got Mohammed Abbas, Brett Hutton, Pennington. You know, lots of people who are good, steady bowlers. But pace and hostility is something else, isn't it? It makes the game so much more fun to watch. And he made a big difference yesterday. You know, he could get good batters out and good wickets. So that was a lot of fun. You asked about Peter Moores. I mean, it's 10 years ago since Peter Moores was most recently sacked by England. I thought he was a wee bit hard done by at the time, but you know, you can't argue that the results under him were quite poor and they did improve. But I think he would say he's carried on learning. You know, he learned from the bad days, and he spoke with such wisdom, to be honest, yesterday after the game that it was wonderful to listen to. Actually, both coaches did. Just talking about Surrey briefly, Gareth Batty came out at the end and he was bristling. I don't know whether with anger or disappointment or whatever it was, but God, he cared, and I love that. Peter Moores then came out jumping for joy. Really, this matters a lot to people, and you know, people will have made up their own minds about Peter Moores, I guess. But if he becomes the first man to win the championship at 3 different clubs as head coach, I think that does surely cement his legacy as one of the great coaches, whatever happened at England level. And I'm really pleased for him because I think he's obviously had some bad times, but he's to keep doing it at different clubs, you know, very different clubs. Surely that tells you something, and it surely tells you that he's got something pretty special.
Word for Lyndon James as well, because, you know, it was him. It wasn't actually Josh Tongue in first innings. For me, Surrey lost that game, and look, Notts recovered from a similar kind of collapse themselves in second innings. But I think Surrey lost that game. That was brilliant bowling. It was a pitch that gave a lot more than we've seen from other oval pitches this year. But to go from 101 for 1 to 173 all out in first innings, it's difficult to win games, especially when you're coming up against a team like Nottinghamshire. But it wasn't Josh Tongue that did the damage in that first innings. But I agree about Tongue. I mean, we've commentated on him all summer. That guy has just got it. You know, he's just got that ball, that delivery. I thought he was really consistent in the second innings. I didn't see as much in the first innings. I was up in the upper pavilion with my dad watching, and it was one of those old school spells of bowling when you're just kind of gritting your teeth and you're looking at, okay, that's one more overdone. Might have 2 more. Oh, another over's gone. You're counting down the deliveries because you know any ball that he was about to deliver could have led to a wicket. And that causes problems when the other bowlers come on as well, isn't it? Because the batters are just trying to cling on against Tongue.
But what it's worth, he'd now be in my first choice Ashes 11.
Well, we can talk about that. I mean, I don't know about you, Harmy. Was that with Archer and Wood playing, George?
No,
or is that with one of them playing just to rest one for the...
It's quite a long time since Wood's played, right?
Yeah, I said that during the week. I said that during the week to Manners, and I said it would probably get more headlines than it would coming from me, because obviously might think Mark Wood might have had a setback. I'm not seeing Mark for a little bit. I think England need to go they need to go towards the Ashes and not think about Mark Wood. I don't think they should have him not so much in the conversation, but he hadn't bowled in a competitive match since February, March. I think whatever you get out of Mark Wood is a bonus from now. I'm not saying if he's not ready to go in Perth, I don't play him. He does. He plays. He's first on my team sheet. I think we just have to be a bit careful when we go, right, Wood, Archer. I think we look at the bowling unit and have a plan on how we're going to try and take 20 wickets. And if Mark Wood's fit, I think then that's an added bonus, because we've been so without him. We've done quite well in passage as a player. I agree with George. I think he's got something which complements Archer really well, because I think Archer's a really good new ball bowler. Not sure he's that middle overs. He's not as good at the tail where he is with the new ball, which is slightly surprising. Stats might not back me up. I'm just going off my eyesight here. But Josh Tongue is a very, very good 6 down, blow the tail away all out because of the way he bowls. And I think what I mean by complement each other, I think if you've got Archer taking wicket to the top, you've got Tongue. I actually sat and watched a little bit of the Not stuff yesterday with Neil Killeen. I was at Durham for the last sort of 2 sessions. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about young D'Oliveira. He took just before I got there, he got a nasty, nasty injury. I really hope he's all right for the cup final. It didn't look good the way he was off. But me and Killer sat for 2.5 hours, maybe it's a bit more, just chewing the fat, talking, and we were talking about bowlers and Josh Tongue and Kill. He said, Josh Tongue, and you mentioned Mitch Stanley, and he said, very much like you, where you'd bowl an absolute shower and go everywhere. And then all of a sudden, within 4 balls, you've got 2 wickets and you're going at 6 and over, and the game's changed because you've blown it up on a flat pitch against a good player. Yeah. This is what Tongue possesses. This is what Mitch Stanley possesses. I've not seen a lot of Stanley, but Andrew Flintoff raves about him. But Killer was saying this is what these guys have got. And when I look at Tongue, I said last week before this game, I think on following on, and I think we clipped it up and put it out, that I wouldn't fancy facing Notts at the Oval because of Josh Tongue, because of the way he bowls. And he certainly blew the tail away nicely, won the match for them. And I think what he is, just to finish off on Josh, what he is for somebody who has been out for so long with injuries, I think it shows that if you can keep a tall bowler, long levers, big frame, if you can keep him bowling little and often, you'll keep him fit and you'll keep him firing and you'll keep his confidence. And the only time that England had a prolonged period where he didn't play, he came in and he struggled at the early part of, I think, the first innings of a test match. I can't remember which test match it was. Oval test match. He really struggled. There was a lot of comparisons and some stupid things put on Twitter about me and him and this, that, and the other. And I thought, you know what? He hasn't bowled for like 2 or 3 weeks, and he needs to bowl a lot in competitive matches. So keep the kid going. He went through the 200, he went through the white ball stuff, and he's possibly now propelled Notts to the championship. And fair play to him. Good luck to him. And it's important that to keep him going now to get him to the Ashes, because I agree with George.
Would you play him next week?
I would play him next week. I really would.
I don't think he is.
I don't see the point. He's not going to play, but I don't see the point of him not playing next week. I don't see what you're achieving by him not playing next week. Then you give him a little bit of a break. You get him into end of October, November, and start progressing him ready for 21st of November when the Ashes comes around. And if the Perth pitch is like what it normally is with a bit of bounce and carry, he might just complement Archer and Atkinson and Coss along with Stokes. And if Wood's fit, that's an added bonus for me.
Can I just very quickly, are England going to play? Because I was listening to what you were saying, Harmy, and funnily enough, I was chatting about Tongue with my dad whilst watching him, and I said he reminded me a bit of you. But are England going to play enough? Because I think you're right, he needs to play. Are England going to play enough in the lead up to that game, that first test?
No, they're going to play the Lions, aren't they? Killer was saying they're going to play the Lions in a game in Perth. The Lions are going to play a game, he said, at Lilac Hill. And then the Lions are going to go to Brisbane, I think, and play a game. Now, Trump's not going to go there. But I think if he plays this week, that's the back end of September. 2 or 3 weeks off, just bowling a little bit in and around whatever get-togethers they have in up till the middle to the end of October. And then I think Killer was saying they're going away. The Lions are going away on the 2nd of November, I think. If they go away then the progression of them keeping bowling little and often could keep them in this nice little cycle of confidence and rich vein of form. But I really would play him next week. And I don't see what you would achieve by resting him, because I think he is one of these bowlers, and he's shown throughout this summer that if he bowls comparatively, little and often, you, one, keep him confident, two, keep him fit, and he's in a good headspace. And I think that's very, very important leading into 5 games against Australia, where you're probably going to need him for at least 2, possibly 3. And he wins the championship. Confidence boosting off winning the championship would be massive next week. I really could play. He wouldn't, if he wins the championship next week, he wouldn't feel a thing in his body because of the way his summer's ended. I know that for a fact. Psychologically, that's the way you go. And I'm not saying he's going to bowl 30 overs next week. He might just bowl 15, 20 overs. If his team wins a championship, it's a brilliant summer for Josh Tongue, the way he's performed.
Nick, do you want to jump in at all?
He's the leading wicket taker in the country this summer. First class wickets, championship plus tests. Which feels relevant, I suppose, in that you can only play as many championship games as England will allow him. So if you chuck in the test he's played, that's basically a first class season, isn't it? Sort of 12, 13, 14 games. Only to say, I was there for all 4 days with George, and that was the best domestic game I've been at by a country mile. I thought, for just overall standard, sort of relentlessness of quality, drama, tension, atmosphere, despite not a big crowds, and significance, I suppose. I've got this theory, and this could be rubbish, but I think if there was a team that was going to finish Surrey's dominance of the championship, kind of makes sense for it to be Notts. If you look down their side, it is a collection of guys who we've been told at different times would play for England, and some of them haven't yet. Some of them haven't and won't. 1 or 2, but only really 1 or 2 probably haven't been touted for England at some point. And it felt very very next best. If you look at or at the very least, best of county cricket, the likes of, Hamid, if you go down that lineup, so it's really only Ben Slater and Brett Hutton, who I can't remember being touted as England players at some point. Freddie McCann's on the Lions and the 19s, as is Jack Haynes, as Lyndon James, as is Dylan Pennington. Carl Rayner's a World Test champion at the moment. As for me, he's played for England in 2 different spells.
Clark's the same. Clark's the same. Always talk about
exactly. Joe Clark is right in that same category as Haynes and McCann as 19s Lions. Pennington was 19s World Cup, has played Lions, has been in the Test squads. Even on the sidelines, Ollie Stone was in that squad for that game. And it's been a stick that has been, and Lynn Batson White as well, who was a couple of years ago Jack Leach's concussion sub for the Test team. So it's been a stick to beat them with over the years, that they are a county predominantly of players they've signed from elsewhere, and not. Peter Morse hates that argument, but actually I thought one of the nice things from a Notts perspective, and certainly to go back against that argument with over the last few days, was that, as John, as you said, this was a game that was really won on the second day by Patson White and Haynes. It was Patson White who made 58 in the first innings, which was the highest score of the match. It was Lyndon James James who batted with him in that partnership about 100 for the 6th wicket from 50 odd for 5, in which nearly saw them sort of lose that advantage from the first innings. And
Hutton getting 30 at number 9, number 10.
Yeah, Hutton, you've got a lovely front foot pull, hasn't he? That was, and also it's funny, you mentioned those 9 guys that side who've been touted for England, but you can't win the championship without Brett Hutton and without Ben Slater, whose numbers in all formats are really good. But someone like Hutton is a really interesting one. That Brett Hutton is, I think this is fair to say, I don't think he'd be first choice. I don't think he'd be in Notts' first choice attack. If bear in mind they're missing Mohamed Abbas in that game. Ollie Stone, has not played
No,
Championship for not this
he
season.
wouldn't have played if
He
Mohammed
wouldn't have
Abbas.
played, and he wouldn't have played. And yet the
And he
interesting
got
thing about
72 runs without being out, I think.
But the interesting thing about Hudson is that he wouldn't have played. He's not first choice, and yet he will end the season having played more games than any other Notts bowler. And there's this, you can't win the league without someone like him, because it's having Brett Hutton that allows you to rotate Pennington and Tongue, and Pennington doesn't get rotated much either, but the likes of Tongue and Stone are fit, and it means that you don't have to. I guess a bit like where England have tried to get to. You don't want to have to play Archer, Woods, Stone, Tongue in the same attack, because you know that that means that 2 tests down the line you can't play maybe 2 of them, maybe any of them. So the value of having someone like him, who's like the young glamorous player in that side, but as George and I both said, like he scored the runs from 9 and 10 that kind of got them in position to. And Josh Tongue's runs at 11 in the second innings as well were massive for that. I think he got 20 and they won by 20. It's not. I thought it was a brilliant game, and I thought they deserved to. I thought they. And as Gareth Batty said at the end, I don't think Surrey have been quite as good this year as they have been certainly last year when they were impeccable. This doesn't, and they've not won it yet, but it doesn't feel like a year where Surrey have necessarily been the best team in the country. That was their first defeat, but they've only won 4 games. And I think that this time last year they'd already won it, hadn't they? So, yeah, I just thought it was a brilliant game, and I thought Notts had to play as well as they did to win it, which says a lot for how good Surrey still are. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. Normally we're sat here saying it's a joke. The top 2 have only played each other once. Essex will, resent that. Hampshire will resent that. Well, this time round, they've only played each other once, and Surrey will resent that. And once again, it speaks to the imperfections. It speaks to the luck of the draw as well. That 3-4 years in a row we've had this situation. But if you wanted a one-off title decider, which this effectively was, I thought it was as good as you could ask for from a county game. So the
2
best
things is
by a mile.
sorry. The 2 things from a Surrey point of view, I didn't see much of the pitch. Did it misbehave? Was it a good pitch for the game of cricket that was the title decider? And I think, John, from my point of view towards Surrey, we spoke on the phone a little bit. How big was Jordan Clark missing? Because he's been probably their best player for the last. If they were to win 4 in a row, I would probably say over the course of that 4 in a row, he's probably their main player of bat and ball. That's a big loss.
And with the bat, like we all, did a very good attack regardless. And I thought Gus Atkinson bowled beautifully in the first innings as well. But the value of Jordan Clark coming in at 8, 9, as we saw with Notts, and actually as we saw with Tom Laws at 9 for Surrey, like those lower order runs in a game where the bowling was there's something about games where there's no spin bowled, particularly in a 4-day game, particularly in a game where, off spin in the first innings is often used just to get through some overs. And it almost feels like everyone takes a bit of time off. There was 1 over a spin the whole match. So it just felt like this relentless quality. Because of the seamers on show, all 8 seamers, other than Hutton, all 8 seamers have been in, at the very least, a line squad, a test squad, whatever. Hutton, as we say, has been hugely important to Notts. But there was 1 over a spin in the game, which was the Patterson White over that led to Tom Curran's dismissal. But I think it just feels like when there's that little seam in a game, so when that little spin in the game, it feels so there's just a relentlessness to it, if you know what I mean. Like it just keeps on coming. There was no let up, and but the one thing I would
Can
say,
I ask you guys a quick question about that? Because George, in your piece on day 1, you described the relentlessness of the Surrey attack, and I think that's a word that's been used to describe Surrey's bowling attack. On more than one occasion over the last few years. It's completely accurate. There's no let up, right? But is there not in your net follow-up sentence, I think you did also describe them as all bowling between 77 and 83 miles an hour. They're all right arm bowlers. I mean, Sam Curran would have played if he hadn't been called up, so that would have changed things. But we know they have had problems with a spinner, or rather, they haven't had a spinner. I, as a Surrey fan, I was nervous from week 2. Can you remember when they didn't bowl Hampshire out at the Oval? And we know that the Surrey pitch gets better as they go on. But essentially, the Surrey way has been to draw away and win at home. And that's been their kind of template. And it's easy to say, but the flat tracks that they were faced with throughout the season, I don't think really changed anything in regard to how they go about their cricket. As long as they win at home. And they didn't win at home. And I just felt this season, Remember, again, at the start of the season, it was all the talk about Dan Worrell playing in the Ashes. That never, ever kicked in because he missed a few games at the start of the season. His figures are good, but they're not exceptional. And essentially, it didn't seem to me like Surrey carried the attack, the threat that maybe they had done in the years building up to this. Maybe it was just one season too far for that mode of attack. And, you know, if Jordan Clark plays, do Hampshire put on 100 for the 6th wicket? Maybe not. But then if Mohammed Abbas plays, then, you know, Surrey are bowled out for less. So I just wonder whether Bats is going to go away and think like he probably did last season. I think Surrey got away with it last year without having the spinner for those Kookaburra rounds. Maybe it's time to bring someone in. The other thing is, I look at that batting lineup for Surrey, and look, they're without Jamie Smith, for God's sake, Sam Curran, possibly Jamie Overton, and somebody else that I can't even think of. Probably, you know, they are missing a lot of gun players. But essentially, I'm at the Notts game, and I'm looking at that scoreboard, and I've thought this many times. Who are you hanging your hat on? Who are you absolutely banking on? He's the only one. He's the only one.
I thought
he's got to go. He's got to go on the Ashes squad. For me, Sibley's in the Ashes squad.
Sibley, but this is the point.
Was a replacement.
This is my point. We were on the phone. I'm walking back from the station, and Tom Curran and Dan Lawrence are in, and we're like, the problem with those two is they're either one ball away from hitting a 6 or getting out. Ollie Pope, I'm sorry, but his numbers completely they're not realistic. They do not.
Do you know,
when he won away, what was it? It was his first century in the county championship for 4 or 5 years away from the Oval a couple of weeks back, wasn't it? Or
I'd be tempted to show you my notes that you made, you know, as you're going through the game, because he could have been out yesterday on 2, on 3, on 4, on 9, I think.
But this is what I'm talking about, George.
And
it's the permanence. Who are you? When I'm looking at Surrey needing to chase down, what was it, the 4th highest score in the history of Surrey in 4th innings, what you wrote in your piece? And I'm looking at that scorecard. You know, Folkes is nervy, right? You know, Pope is nervy. That's a big ask for Ryan Patel. You got Tom Curran coming in at, what was he, 7? Dan Lawrence. I love watching Dan Lawrence. Nobody wins that T20 game. There isn't anybody that wins that T20 game that he won for Surrey, a month or so ago. But you're not banking on him. So who do you bank on? Even Rory Burns, you know, he scored a lot of 40s, 50s. Sibley, as soon as he went,
England's vice captain.
I was like, okay, now we're in real trouble.
You've got England's vice captain, John. I mean, you talk about playing county cricket.
Not anymore.
I always felt when I was playing for England, I felt more under pressure playing for Durham than I did playing for England, because I was going back. Because it was like, I've got to perform. My mates are here thinking, right, you're an England player, you're seen on TV, get your finger out and bowl these out.
I was at the Surrey
under pressure.
I was at Surrey press day.
That inspired you to perform. It inspired you to be, hold on, if I just play at 90%, I still should be much better than anything I'm playing at. And that really, really being without disrespectful to county cricket. I should be able to run up here and put 3 or 4 good balls in an area, stick my chest out, look at somebody straight in the eye, and they're playing against England's #1 fast bowler. Tom Sibley, for me, should be looking and going, well, other than Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett, the next cab off the rank, opening batter, it can't be Ben McKinney. It can't be. Try to think who's the other young one that they're thinking of. It has to be Tom Sibley. So if he's got in the mindset of walking out and thinking, right, title decider at the Oval, I want to be opening the bat. I want to be in a position that if one of these busts a finger, I'm opening the bat and won a Test match in Australia. Ollie Pope is going to bat number 3, but I don't think he is now. I think Jacob Bettel is.
No, I think
Ollie Pope is going to bat number 3 in a Test match in Australia. They should be going out and imposing themselves and going, right, if I get 3 or 4 away here, then bowlers are going to go into their shell because they're bowling Ollie Pope, England international. I used to feel as though I give off that persona. I believed in it and I felt as though I give it off. I'm not sure now there's some people go back into county cricket and do that, especially in the batting department. I thought Josh Tongue did with a ball.
Yeah,
I thought Josh Tongue did with a ball.
Harmy, there's two things. First off, you were the number one bowler in the world, right?
Not all the time, though.
No, not all the time.
When Durham won the championship in 8 and 9, I was out of the England team and couldn't bowl a hoop downhill. I tell you what, when I walked on the field, I made sure that everybody knew I was 6'5". I was a fast bowler, and I made sure that I was going to impose myself because I was fighting for Durham and fighting for the county. I don't see that mentality in English cricket when they go back and play county cricket.
Well, you saw it from Josh Tongue, and that Ollie Pope before the season before last, and it was off the back of the India series, I guess, which we had rights to. And he was talking. You remember when he was going through that horror run? It might have even been the season before that. And he was taking an off stump guard, and he was moving around the crease, and everyone was just talking. Even then, people were talking about his starts to his innings, and he said, "I am actually more nervous playing for Surrey than I am playing for England." And you can
He
tell.
looked it.
Yeah, you can absolutely tell. When he walked out to the crease, I'm not thinking there's the England vice captain. I'm thinking he's going to get caught in the slips.
It was. We know he's. There's been that talk about how skittish he is. That was as skittish as I've seen in those first 25. He could have been run out. Forget.
Yeah, that second run out.
He could be run out twice.
There was two run outs, wasn't there? The Hamid one was like
both innings though. He's been out. They're soft dismissals. You talk about folks being nicked off. Play that ball.
I'm not talking about folks. Folks is a phenomenal.
Just on that
championship. I'm just saying, he's a nervy one.
Yeah, just on that though. Folks, I think, was a tongue dismissal, the classic tongue dismissal, angled in, pitching just back of a length on off. Got to play it because you think it's angled. And so you do play it, and you take that edge, and it's
absolutely.
That is an example of what tongue does.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a genuine, international quality fast bowlers.
But just on that,
but you also know how folks is going to shape up. Did you see that shot where he kind of pulled it to the right of mid on?
Yeah.
And I had my back to it, and I've got no screen. I've not got any replays, and I'm thinking, that's a funny shot. It's a funny shot to play quite early on in your innings.
I thought in that game against in that quality game. Sorry, get away with it at times and have to get away with it at times because players are missing and stuff. I thought folks looked. I think to your point earlier, John, about the actual sort of shape of Surrey's side. I thought folks looked at least a spot high at 4.
Yeah,
and I thought Tom Curran. I mean, Tom Curran played. Actually, I thought Tom Curran played the exact innings he was picked for in the second innings.
Yeah.
And but I do also think that this summer, it's not whether I don't know necessarily whether it's been one summer too many, or the kind of summer that it's been with being as dry as it's been. I thought Surrey at times gave off. I'm sure they'll say this wasn't the case, but it gave off the air of being slightly hubristic at times with the insistence of going in once again without a specialist spinner. They kind of relented with that when Santner played a couple, then when Saika Shaw played a couple. But even these last couple of games, as soon as Washington Sunder was signed by Hampshire for these last couple, Surrey have known what they're going to face next week. Now, you look around the world, there aren't that many overseas spinners who are available for Surrey to bring in if they wanted to.
You look at our country, there's no spinners in our country. We've got Archie Ford and Jack Leach opening the bowling while Shoaib Bashir's carrying drinks, and he's now England #1 spinner. There's no spin bowlers in this country. There was an Afghanistan bowler playing for Richmond Cricket Club, brought into Durham this week on a wicket, which, to be fair, I've got to give credit to Jake Libby. He got Ollie Robinson with an absolute beauty yesterday. Drift, spin, a fantastic delivery. Because Worcester just weren't interested in bowling their bowlers. But we've got Durham signing an Afghanistan spin bowler who had 1 for 200 when you've got Parkinson and George Drizzle, and we prepared a wicket which was going to turn. There's no spin bowlers in this country. So whatever you want to say about Surrey, I think you can say about the whole country. We're not producing spin bowlers. English cricket over the course of the last 3 years, a little bit like Duncan Fletcher, we were so obsessed that Pierce means everything. So we're trying to produce fast bowlers that bowl in excess of 85 miles an hour, not interested in anything else. And now, well, once the Ashes is out of the way, we're going to go to the subcontinent quite a few times, and we've got not many spin bowlers in this country. And that would worry me more, not just as a Surrey member, but as an English cricket fan.
But it would surprise me that, so I was just checking this now, actually, I'm surprised by it that Yusuf Majid hasn't played a single game in the Championship, sorry, this season. And it's one thing not having spinners on a sled. I mean, Durham have got a choice, as you said, Durham have got a choice of 3. Sussex play 2 in every game. Surrey do not have on their staff a special spinner that they've picked all season. Cam Steele's played a couple, but they don't pick anyone who bats 8 or below, essentially, do they, to bowl spin, John? And that in previous years, bit more weather around, pitch a bit more conducive, winning more games. Like they've got away with it. And Dan Lawrence, he said when he first joined, one of the reasons he joined was he wanted to bowl more, and that was part of it with being behind Harmer at Essex, and obviously Will Jacks bowled enough off spin when he was playing quite a bit of Championship cricket to go on that Test tour. But other than Saiki Shaw and Santner, how many overs of spin have Surrey bowled all season? And that's
I'm not quite sure.
That's not.
I think that was more of a problem during the Kookaburra rounds last season, and as you said, there was 1 over of spin bowled and it actually led to Tom Curran's wicket, didn't it? But yeah, I think Surrey will be looking at it and thinking we probably need. I think Surrey are missing a gun. I thought Curtis Patterson, when he was at Surrey at the start of the season, I watched him bat, the way he shaped up, got on with his game, and I thought that is an out and out batter, right? More often than not, when I'm watching Surrey, be it in T20 or ODIs, I'm thinking, well, I love Sam Curran. I'm fond of Tom Curran. Dan Lawrence coming to Surrey saying he wants to be an all-rounder. I'm not sure about that. I'd rather he just concentrated on batting. Ryan Patel's been in and out and up and down. I mean, what position I thought his best position was opener, and he bats everywhere. And Folks is batting at one place too high. Anyway, let's move on, because
just one more thing on Surrey's.
I don't want to pick the bones out of Surrey, because Notts, I thought, of all the teams, if Hampshire had won or Essex had won it, I would be very bitter today. But there's something very likable about Nottinghamshire and Peter Moores, and
Peter Moores especially.
Yeah. So
I don't want to.
And also, can I also say, like Garrett, and exactly, that he's a proper cricket badger. He absolutely loves it. He loves it, and it's really good to see him succeed. Hamid.
Yeah. Look, he's good as well. He's better than that. I mean, for example, he brought on the spinner. There were 75 to win, yeah? 1 or 2 bad overs of spin and that game's gone. And he knew that Curran would go after him. And the only reason I wouldn't have brought him on, because I was a bit worried about their keeper. I didn't think their keeper's very good at all. And he took a wicket with his 4th ball. And also he managed Tongue really well. You would think that they might be nervous about bowling Tongue in long spells, but he basically bowled... What did he bowl? Something like 14 overs out of 16 in a row from the Vauxhall end, something like that. And he bowled some tosh, actually. He bowled some, when he over pitches, he gets driven quite often, doesn't he? And he was clearly saying to him, doesn't matter, go for it. That's not your skill. We've got loads of other bowlers who are going to go at 2 and over. Your job, your unique selling point, is to do the Harmy roll, to break it open. And that's the difference. There's no one on the Surrey staff who does that. It's brilliant to have all those tight, skillful, fast medium bowlers. They're brilliant. 80% of the time, 90% of the time, it's just what you need. But Notts have won 6 games, and Surrey have only taken 20 wickets 5 times, I think. I think this was the 5th time they'd done it. So...
Sorry, I thought you were stopping.
No, just the difference is that Notts can complement the really good, tight, skillful bowlers with someone special, the extra pace. And any level, it makes a big difference. It sort of makes the whole attack better.
Morny Morkel. That's who, sorry. That's the bowler that...
It takes 20, 30 runs off the tail. Because if you've got somebody that's horrible and nasty, I mean, as a world-class number 11, I didn't fancy him.
Matt Fisher didn't fancy it, did he? And I don't blame him. But
yeah, Fisher, by the way, I don't fancy
I'd take him to Australia. I mean, maybe it's in the Lions squad.
Lions squad, yeah.
Matt Fisher.
I'll tell you what, Notts have done really well as well. That was so if you go back to April, they had Fergus O'Neill as an overseas player. on one of those 28-day visa things. He played 4 games, and when he left, he was replaced by Abbas. Now, if Abbas's back had been all right last week, he'd have played against Surrey. That was the first game that either of those two have missed. So between the two of them, they played 12 out of 13 games, which is actually more than Surrey's cumulative number of overseas appearances all season. Surrey's various overseas have played 11 games between them, which is out of 26 slots. You had 2 overseas per player who played 13 games. They could have had 26 overseas appearances. So far, they've had 11. Now, Notts have done what Paul Farber did actually last year, really well at Sussex. And he basically said, we can have an overseas bowler slot. And between however many of them, they're going to play our 14 games. It got Sussex up out of Division 2. Notts have taken 47 wickets in that slot from 11 games, so from 12 games between Abbas and O'Neill. When O'Neill left England, I think I'm right in saying he was leading wicket taker in the country.
He was.
20, like 20,
And
20.
Abbas has taken 26 wickets at 24, which includes the 4 Cookbar rounds. And that's a massive difference maker. They bowl 89 maidens between them. They've had they've got 2.5, the pair of them. Fair chance O'Neill comes back for longer next year. With nothing to change the regs. So they've essentially gone, that's a slot. So that was the first game that Surrey won, where they'd not had an overseas quick. Whereas actually, you talk about folks being a spot high. Curtis Patterson on an extended run, let's say, if he'd played, he's the kind of overseas you can sign for the year because he's not in Australia's plans at the moment. He doesn't do franchise stuff. You could get 12 games out of Patterson before the Australian players go back. Bats at 3 all season, shifts everyone down 1, and your side is stronger for it. And Notts have absolutely nailed it with those two in particular. And actually, Verena and with George had a really untidy, weird game behind the stumps. But actually, and he's not scored a million runs. But he has got, if I'm right in saying, quite an important, I can't remember what it was, but I think he got quite an important 100 over this season. Point being, they've been a lot more settled than Notts than Surrey can be, I suppose. But they have used they've used that ability to be settled to their advantage.
And we should also mention Worcestershire, because I suspect there's a sort of sweet sorrow for Worcestershire supporters about all this. 4 of that side, that Notts side, and a big 4, have come from the Worcestershire youth system. And they went there as pretty well-rounded players. I don't dispute that Notts have improved them, but they were good players already. And I'm a member of the Worcestershire Supporters Association, a life member, and I hope that Worcestershire supporters take quite a lot of pride in Notts' success. That's not to say the system's good enough. It's not to say that they've been rewarded adequately or that there are enough incentives. But Notts don't win the championship without the good work that Worcestershire did 8, 10, 15 years ago in finding those players. I think Josh Tongue was playing for Worcester from under 10s. So it's a really, really lovely story. I think he's a state school educated fast bowler who's come through from under 10s. He is. There are comparisons with Harmy. And big thing to say, but I am really excited about him and the Ashes. It just feels like it's coming to the boil at the right time.
And don't forget Mitch Stanley as well. There's another one who I was mentioned today. I mean, he's another Worcester product, another Shropshire. He's from Shropshire, 24-year-old. Pennington very nearly made his Test debut this time last year. That's 3, homegrown quicks. And I suppose you need to, in some cases, need to move. I mean, Josh Tongue was on a central contract already, could probably have stuck around and been looked after. But you do kind of, playing for Beer County means that you can get rested a bit more and looked after a bit more and play fewer games and be fitter when you do play. And that was the Matt Fisher argument for joining Surrey from Yorkshire, wasn't it? That at Yorkshire he was going to play until he broke and then come back and play until he broke again. Whereas I think Alex Stewart said he'd play 8 or 9 games. I think he's played 10 so far, rather than having tried to play 13 to this point. It does make a difference, and clubs have their roles as much as we'd rather believe that wasn't the case. It particularly with fast bowlers, there is a kernel of truth to it.
We've been discussing this at length. Before we move on, Worcestershire, of course, where Gareth Batty obviously honed his coaching skills as well as a player for 6 or 7 years. Big, huge games next week. There was 9,000 people watching this Somerset stream last night, or as Hampshire clung on. But it's difficult to see Well, I mean, technically, anyone from Sussex down can go down, can't they? Worcestershire are relegated. We guess we still don't know what's going on with the makeup of the county championship. But Yorkshire Durham, is it just a straight shootout? Hampshire, they lose heavily to Surrey.
Yorkshire Durham's a draw and Hampshire get beat. Hampshire have gone.
Yeah,
2 points in it. So Surrey still have the Hampshire Surrey game, the Yorkshire Durham game. I mean, they're two like colossal games in this season's championship, because Surrey need to win just in case something happens at Notts. So if they do that, then Hampshire are in real trouble, especially if one of the if Yorkshire lose, I think then Hampshire will go down. If Durham lose, then it'll come down to bonus points. And,
You can't have 4 going up from Division 2, by the way.
yeah.
I mean, you can't. I mean, that doesn't make sense.
But who's going to go? Who's going to go down? I remember Durham having this. Durham won the championship in 08 and 09. Won Brent Provident in 07. But I think in 06, I think it was Darren Lehman's last game, and we were in the same position. Durham went to Yorkshire, had to win to start, to draw to stay up, and Darren Lehman got 300, and weren't interested in the game at all. And I think Durham were 150 for 6, 150 for 5, 156, and Otis Gibson got 150. Dale Benkenstein got 150. We managed to save the follow-on. We stayed in the first division. So, I mean, Durham's been in this position before at Yorkshire. I would imagine they'll play on a flat one. And Durham have to go there and somehow try and grab, wrestle themselves off the floor, because I can't imagine that dressing room being a very, very comfortable one or a strong one at this moment in time. Yorkshire's, where's they're at? That's going to be interesting to see where Yorkshire's mentality is next week as well, because I think they're probably in the favourites to stay up, because one, they're at home. Hampshire have got Surrey to play, and Surrey need to win, potentially win a championship. And Durham have got to go all out and take risks, because as long as Yorkshire match their points, Yorkshire are safe. So probably Yorkshire are the ones that go in out of them 3 teams. I don't think anybody else is in the equation. But probably Yorkshire are the ones that are probably the favourites to stay up between Hampshire, Yorkshire and Durham. That's the way I see it anyway.
Hampshire making some very interesting noises. They say Eddie Birrell's quotes during their game. He said quite openly mid-game what an anxious dressing room it was, how uncomfortable they felt, how they're not used to being in this position. They are, and obviously they've been cast into this position by not just by their on-field stuff, but by the points penalty as well. So you do wonder whether where heads are at. They lost the blast final last week. They've got One Day Cup final on Saturday. There's a lot going on there to have to throw themselves into the game they've got next week. Although what I would say is the character, what they did on what day is it today? What they did on Thursday to avoid defeat at Somerset by batting for what looked like a million overs was a serious effort. And because if they'd lost that, you can see how this all goes. I mean, they'd be all but down, wouldn't they, if they lost that? They'd have had to beat Surrey effectively, But the one thing with Hampshire, kind of the opposite to the pitch that Yorkshire might prepare, is Hampshire kind of showed their cards. They've signed Washington Sunday. They've got Liam Dawson coming back from the Island series. We know what it's going to do, and also they know how to beat Surrey. They beat Surrey in exactly this.
You can't get any more dot points, can they? Surely, so there should be.
It's a bold move just after points deduction, isn't it? We're gonna rag, but they beat Surrey last year in not similar conditions league-wise, but similar conditions as in it spun and they dominated Surrey. And as we've seen this season, that's been the way that teams have tried to play Surrey at home. Flat ones or pitch that spun a bit. So Dawson plus Washington, it might not be a game full of bonus points. You wonder which kind of is the gamble you take if you know that you need to avoid defeat. But equally, looking at their batting during the week, they also look at a few guys at one spot high.
Yeah, James Vince missing.
George,
strange things have happened.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Somerset winning the Blast?
Lovely. They've deserved it. I think they're the best side over the course of the competition. Obviously they've had this record of being bridesmaids a lot in recent years, but it feels like they're getting more comfortable with the level of success they're enjoying quite consistently. So I still think it's not impossible they could challenge for the championship in the next couple of years. I mean, by the way, they're only an hour away from doing that yesterday. I mean, if results had gone slightly differently, they'd still be in the chase. So still great times to be a Somerset supporter in recent years, this century really. And I'm just a bit worried about how they keep letting their faster bowlers leave.
Yeah, that's a good sign for us, that Aldridge. That's a good
terrific
sign.
signing. I mean, he can bat obviously as well,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean,
He'll enjoy bowling at Durham, I reckon.
Yeah, I hope that he becomes. Look, he's got to get more consistent, but he's probably the quickest, certainly one of the quickest bowlers on the staff.
Mm.
I find it puzzling that they've got three batting all-rounders, really, or three all-rounders, who were all competing for a position, and they've let them all go at the same time. I find that a bit puzzling, but I don't want to knock them. You've asked me about the winning a trophy, and that's fantastic. And just on the quiet, there's a couple of... Tom Abel's one of those great unsung county players, like an Ed Barnard or something. Maybe the perfect county player, and it doesn't look like the England thing's going to happen. Not that either of them would let England down. But just a fantastic cricketer, very committed in the field, can be useful with the ball. A hugely, hugely valuable player for Somerset for a long time.
Brilliant stuff. Anything else to wrap up or discuss before our final show of the season?
Glamorgan.
Go on.
I mean, since 2005, been out of the top division, got themselves promoted. I mean, I have to mention Glamorgan because I absolutely obliterated Welsh Fire in the 100, talking about what is the point of having them when you're looking at tribalism and not having anybody from Wales playing cricket in the 100 from that side of it. But so, fair play to Richard Dawson. Jonathan Trott was there for a little bit. They've done an amazing job to finish second and get promoted. So I think we have to mention Glamorgan. We mentioned Leicester last week getting promoted. I think we have to mention Glamorgan because it looks as though, fingers crossed, Richard Dawson's onto something special down in Wales.
I agree. He's very well thought of as one of the younger coaches.
Yeah, I was speaking to a couple of people at Glamorgan this morning for a piece about their promotion. I said, what's caused this? And all anyone would say is that Richard Dawson is so good. They didn't have a coach, remember, until Richard Dawson started at the start of March. Grant Babburn was sacked on, was it New Year's Eve or the day before New Year's Eve? And they lost two of their first three, pretty bad in doing so. They've not lost since late April. And I think Glamorgan done that's really cool and unlike them over recent years. They brought through really good young players and crucially for them, a really good young Welsh player in Ben Callaway. Obviously, Ace of Tribes made a lot of headlines, but that they've done, as Harmison said, they've done brilliantly.
But he got with the Lions, Callaway. You've seen more than me. I like what I've seen.
Surprised, but
in bits that I've seen, I've really liked what I've seen, but I've only seen highlights.
The thing that's important with Callaway,
did he go with the Lions?
Potentially, because the thing I've seen, the thing that's important with Callaway is that everyone knows him as the dude who bowls with both arms, but he's very much like he's a proper batter as well. He's been batted six. I was there when he got 100 at Kent earlier this year. His left arm thing is very much like it's very much his fourth skill. He's a proper multifaceted cricketer. Ended up with Welsh Fire in the 100. You'd be surprised. There's obviously a lot to work with there. And the left arm thing is cool, and it does give him, something for a particularly white ball, where you're always looking for points of difference and stuff that is, thinking outside the box and things like that. So it would make sense if he did it. I'd be surprised if Ace of Tribe wasn't on the Lions tour. I think he can be without impacting his jersey eligibility, unless the regs have changed around that. But yeah, I mean they've done it. And Mason Crane, he's only played 4 games, but he took 19 wickets in doing so, with a 6 in there. I think another 5 in there as well. I'd love for him. I'd love for him to come big again. And then the other end of the scale, they've got Colin Ingram, who's 40 and still churns out 1,000 runs a year. They've been, it's a really cool story. It's the Leicester story, just as Ari says, like a couple. What they did 2 more years in Division 1, didn't they?
We should mention Derbyshire trying to sign Mohammed Abbas. Run a story on that this morning because
For loads of money.
they've offered him a lot of money, 6 figures, plus £400 a wicket, which I find quite interesting. I don't think he'll be able to turn that down.
No,
So it means he's getting 10 grand a game, I reckon.
that's a good deal. That isn't. You're not turning that one down.
Where'd you
Got to
say?
take it. And he's a great signing. You can see why Mickey Arthur would want him. I mean, anyone would want him.
He'll complete the Midlands Triangle, won't he?
He's certainly done well. He hasn't
Not
done
Leicester
well,
Derby.
but yeah.
Oh, well, that bit of the Midlands, I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, no fair. Look, he'll bowl a lot of overs. He won't go for very many runs, and he'll take wickets. I mean, what's not to like? Pakistan don't look as if they're going to pick him, although you never know with Pakistan. He could be captain in a week.
Captain soon, yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like many franchises are interested in him. So
You wouldn't say he's got a natural T20 globetrotting style, would you? He doesn't
you
bat.
wouldn't, but he'll never let any side down because he'll bowl a length.
Jimmy Anderson at 43 got to find it.
He did. Didn't enjoy it.
No, but he got there.
Yeah, amazing.
He did play for Pakistan this year, though, didn't he?
Well, within the last 12 months, he has. Yeah.
He played in January.
He would be in every team.
And Pakistan are here in England in August.
I would pick him.
August,
Well, August.
Championship cricket's he going to be
Perfect.
playing in August?
Yeah.
August
Perfect.
into
He's not getting in
September.
100, is he? So, yeah.
Yeah.
He
So
would be
you
in
can see
every
why
Red Bull
they'd
team
like him.
ever pick.
George, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
He could bowl some overs next year.
Yeah.
Because when he schedule a break, he's going to be playing Test cricket.
And I think Zach Chappell would be absolutely delighted.
Hmm.
Because I think there must have been days. He's bowled, I don't know, I haven't checked how many overs Zach Chappell's bowled, but every time I turn on the stream, Zach Chappell's bowling.
I remember every time I turned on the TV, it seemed like Mark Butcher and Rob Key were sitting there watching the rain, just at a county ground, watching the blast. A few years back.
Where are we all next
The
week then?
hours those two used to fill.
Where are we next week?
What is right? Where is everybody next week?
We're Rotor Watch.
Portugal.
Road to watch.
Portugal, what's going on there?
I'm in Portugal with 8 other former England cricketers. Ed Giddens, Chris Schofield, Ryan Sidebottom, Warren Hegg, John Morris, Graham. Unfortunately, we're captained by Graham Swan. And we're playing golf against 10 former England footballers.
It's weird that you're struggling to shake off that illness.
Yeah, I'm struggling to shake. I've been in hibernation for 4 weeks, just getting myself ready for it. So unfortunately, there'll be no alcohol, which is a real shame because I'm a scratch alcohol golf player. But this time it might be a bit of a struggle just to make sure I play 4 rounds. So I'll be watching from afar. But us old codgers will be supporting our teams.
But why have we not even discussed getting that on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel? Live streaming.
I mean, it's brilliant. I mean,
What about
I have to tell a quick little story. And they're not all little stories for me, but I remember when I went for the selector's job and I'd done all my preparation the day before. It was on Zoom and I was actually in Portugal, so I didn't have one drink going into it. Ashley Jive was on a trip, helped me loads through the Zoom call. And I said, I can't drink. I've got to look after myself. I get up the next morning, do the thing. And then the next day I said, you can put me with the 3 drunkest people that you possibly can. And we had a can of hole challenge, of which we came last in the golf competition. And 2 of the 2 blokes in the other buggy didn't make it down the 16th. And I've had to play the last 2 holes by myself because the bloke sitting next to me fell asleep on the 16th as well. So I was quite enjoying that. I enjoyed that day, but I wish I'd done it the day before. I might have got the selector's job.
I'll be in Nottingham.
You'll be at Nottingham.
Of course.
And what about you,
Not my doing.
Nick?
I think I'm just flitting around. I think we're covered I believe we'll have Paul Edwards at Headingley, Oscar S at Utilita, and George at Notts, which are the 3 real live games, aren't they? So I think I'm just going to sort of see what feels alive.
Who's at Headingley?
Paul Edwards
Paul.
is covering
Great Paul Edwards,
Yorkshire,
Mr.
the great
Edwards.
Paul Ed- who will write about someone's relegation beautifully.
Do you think Notts will play on the international pitch that got rained off?
If I were them, I'd play on the flattest pitch in the world.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The T20 game that got rained off, international one, they're normally your best pitches, aren't they? Do you think Notts will play on that and just say, right, we're going to play on a flat one? And
I think so.
Because the international pitch in white ball cricket tends to go for like 350, 400. So it'll be flat and good.
The other possible benefit to that is that they're the central wickets, aren't they? And you almost don't want to. If you can avoid playing on like one side, which is the kind of thing that can create a result where there isn't one. If someone gets going and starts, pinching, sort of pitching, wedging it 50 yards. I suspect they've also got the One Day Cup final at Trent Bridge on Saturday, of course, and it may well be
that might be played on that pitch.
So, but they just Notts need to not lose, right? Or lose but get a load of bonus points.
Notts will probably win or draw. Yes, thanks for joining us here on Following Quite. We're going to be back next week for the final show of Series 4, looking back at the final round of games in the County Championship. But for now, thanks for joining us.